My Days in England, Part 3. But I did not make many English friends. If they were a reserved race, I was even more reserved. Always shy, I waited for others to take the initiative. In India, people will take the initiative, they lose no time in getting to know you. Not so in England. They were too polite to look at you. And in that respect, I was more English than the English. The gentleman who lived on the floor below me occasionally went so far as to greet me with the observation, "Beastly weather, isn't it?" And I would respond by saying, "Oh, perfectly beastly," and pass on. How different it was when I bumped into a Gujarati boy, Praveen, who lived on the basement floor. He gave me a winning smile, and I remember saying, "Oh, to be in Bombay now that winter is here." And immediately we were friends. He was only 17, a year or two younger than me, and he was studying at one of the polytechnics with a view to getting into the London School of Economics. At the time, most of the Indians in London were students. The great immigration rush was still a long way off, and racial antagonisms were directed more at the recently arrived West Indians than at Asians. Praveen took me on the rounds of the coffee bars, then proliferating all over London, and introduced me to the students, among them a Vietnamese called Thanha, who cultivated my friendship because, as he said, I want to speak English. When he discovered that my accent was very un English, he dropped me like a hot brick. He was very frank. He was not interested in friendship, he said, only in improving his accent. I heard later that he had attached himself to a young journalist from up north who spoke broad Yorkshire. Most evenings, I remained in my room and worked on my novel. From being a journal, it had become a first person narrative, and now I was turning it into fiction in the third person. The title had also undergone a few changes, but finally I settled on The Room on the Roof. Into it, I put all the love and affection I felt for the friends I had left behind in Tehran. It was more than nostalgia, it was a recreation of the people, places, and incidents of that last year in India. I did not want it to fade away. The river banks at Haridwar, the mango groves of Dehradun, the poinsettia and bougainvillea, the games on the parade ground, the chaat shops near the clock tower, the summer heat, the monsoon downpour, romping naked in the rain, sitting on railway platforms, gnawing at stick of sugarcane, listening to street cries, All this and more came crowding upon me as I sat writing before the gas fire in my little room. When it grew very cold, I used an old overcoat given to me by Diana Athill, the junior partner in Andrew Dusch, who had promised to publish The Room if I rewrote it as a novel. Another who encouraged me was a BBC producer, Prudence Smith, who got me to give a couple of talks on radio's third program. I felt I was getting somewhere, and when I found myself confined to the Hampstead General Hospital for almost a month with a mysterious disease which had affected my vision in my right eye, I used the left to catch up on my reading and to write a couple of short stories. A nurse brought a tray of books around the ward every afternoon, and thanks to this courtesy, I was able to discover the delightful stories of William Soroyan and Denton Welch, sensitive first novel Maiden Voyage. Soroyan, a Pulitzer Prize winner for his play The Time of Your Life, was then very successful and popular. Denton's promising career had been cut short by a terrible accident. Out cycling on a country road, he had been knocked down by a speeding motorist. He had lived for several years, struggling against crippling injuries and almost completing his sensitive autobiography, A Voice in the Clouds. He was 31 when he died. Towards the end, he could only work for 3 or 4 minutes at a time. Complications set in, and the left side of his heart started failing. Even then, he made a terrific effort to finish his book. His friend Eric wrote, Denton was upheld by the high courage which seemed somehow the fruit of his rare intelligence. The work of these writers, together with the bottle of Guinness I was given every day as a tonic, meant that I walked out of the hospital with a spring in my step and a determination to succeed. But Andrew Dusch was still dithering over my book. The firm was doing well, but he didn't like taking risks. No publisher liked losing money, and he was not going to make much out of my novel, a subjective and unsensational work, but I resented his indecision. So I returned the small amount he had paid me by way of an option and demanded the return of my manuscript. Back came an apologetic letter and even advance, then £50 against publication. Today, almost 50 years later, the firm of Andrew Dusch has gone, but The Room on the Roof is still in print, still making friends. This is not something that I gloat over. It only goes to show that books are unpredictable commodities and that the most successful authors and publishers often fall by the wayside. Publishers go out of business, writers fade from the public mind. Even Soroyan is forgotten now. I will be forgotten too someday. Thank you very much. Now, words and meanings. At the time, most of the Indians in London were students. The great immigration rush was still a long way off, and racial antagonisms were directed more at the recently arrived West Indians than at Asians. Antagonism, Antagonism, antagonism means hate, extreme unfriendliness, or active opposition to someone. Praveen took me on the rounds of the coffee bars, then proliferating all over London. Proliferate, Proliferate. Proliferate means to increase a lot and suddenly in number. The river banks at Haridwar, the mango groves at the Doon, the poinsettia and bougainvillea, the games on the parade ground, the chaat shops near the clock tower, the summer heat, the monsoon downpours, romping naked in the rain, sitting on railway platforms, gnawing at a stick of sugarcane. Romping, ROMPING, romp means to play in a rough, excited, and noisy way. Gnawing, GNAWING, gnawing means persistently worrying. Towards the end, he could only work for 3 or 4 minutes at a time. Even then, he made a terrific effort to finish his book. Terrific, TERRIFC, terrific means very good, of great intensity. But Andrew Dush was still dithering over my book. Dither, DITHER, dither means to be unable to make a decision about doing something. Today, almost 50 years later, the firm of Andrew Dush has gone, but the room on the roof is still in print, still making friends. This is not something that I gloat over. It only goes to show that books are unpredictable commodities. Gloat, GLOAT, gloat means to feel or express great pleasure or satisfaction because of your own success or good luck.